one of the things I like about the digital archive of literacy narratives is that it allows us to tell our own history into being, that people can tell their stories in their own words and upload as many of the artifacts of their own making that they want to do, and that in that act they can leave a historical trace of themselves through history. And I think that's very important, because there will come a time 100 years down the road when people will not remember, for instance, writing thank you notes by hand. Or there will come a time 200 years down the road when people will not remember typing on these primitive computers that we use now. So I think it's always important to have a historical trace. I would say the other reason that students should consider contributing to the DALN is because they too will be gone. Not just their composing practices, but we lose people every single day. They die unexpectedly, or they just forget to leave some sort of recording of themselves. And I think this is a gift to preserve in the future. And I think it's really important that we all leave some kind of gift like that for future generations.
What sorts of things have you learned about people by listening to these narratives and recording them?
One of the things that I like to talk to people about is how when they tell a story, they tell themselves into being. And the events and the ordering of those events and the import or significance of those events has significance for your own life and the kind of person that you want to be known as, or the kind of person that you want to become. So in telling narratives, even narratives that you think are true, you are really telling into being the kind of person you want to become. And I think that's a lovely way of thinking about the kinds of stories you want to tell and you want to share with other people, because it's those stories that reveal what kind of person you are.
Are there particular kinds of things that you'd like to encourage people to think about when they compose these narratives to contribute?
Well, literacy narratives for the DALN can be 2 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 hours. They can be audio, video, or still photography. They can be combinations of all of those forms. They can be happy, they can be sad, they can be poignant, they can be startling. So I don't think there's any one thing that makes a DALN narrative work, except for the fact that it comes from the heart, that it's not just a rote exercise, that it's not just my teacher told me to do this, so I'm going to do it, but rather it's a real thoughtful rendering of a person and their lives and the role that literacy has played at some moment of their life, at some particular point when it really made a difference in their life and in their community and where they're from.
This is a little bit of a sidetrack, I suppose, but if you were going to ask that students do this,
yeah,
what might you use in terms of technologies to record, or what kind of options might you give them?
If I were giving the option to students in my class, if they had their own video camera, I'd encourage them to use their own video camera as long as they knew how to download the results onto their own computer. So as long as they knew that, I'd be fine with it. I would not encourage students to use cell phones necessarily, because cell phones have a lot of interference with the voice, and I don't think you get the best recording from a cell phone. But if they have a voice recorder or a camera that takes good vocal recordings, I'd encourage them to use a voice recorder. And frankly, I have loved these literacy narratives that have been in print too. I think that we can do a lot with print that we couldn't do with video or audio, but we can do a lot with audio or video that we can't do with print. So I guess it just depends on the person and how best they feel they can render their story or pass along their story in its fullest richest possible form. And some people use all three of those elements to make up a story in the DALN. I think that's pretty cool too.
And so you can just upload text files?
You can upload text files, you can upload video files, and you can upload audio files, and you can upload photographs, so or any kind of scanned image. So all of those can be uploaded, and they all go in the same bucket. So if you make a bucket for your DALN literacy narratives, all of those will go in that same bucket and will be searchable online.
You were using equipment the other day when you were recording right off the computer. Can you talk a little bit about what that was?
Yes, if your computer has a audio recording program built in and a microphone built in, or a video camera built in like many Macs laptops now do, you can record right onto your laptop with the built-in microphone and the built-in camera. In fact, that's a very easy way to do things.
Using what program?
QuickTime Pro. Yeah.
Okay. Any advice you'd give to teachers encouraging students to do this?
For teachers, I think this work is particularly important for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think we owe it to the profession to assemble a corpus of literacy narratives that anyone can use for any purpose. I count among those people librarians, teachers, scholars, researchers, and I think as a profession we've not done a really good job of pulling together enough narratives about literacy in a place that's accessible to everyone. And that's one of the things I think that one of the reasons why I think teachers should use the DALN. And I also think that for teachers, I think this is a way of starting to learn a bit more about the invisible literacies that students bring to the table that we don't always hear about. They go under the radar of our attention because they're not the same literacies that we ourselves value or practice or even see. They're not visible to us. So I would say that these literacy narratives are a wonderful way of finding out what students can do and starting from what they can do rather than from what they are not able to do. And I like that part of literacy narratives as well. I think it's important, in my opinion, that we all give gifts to the profession, gifts that outlast us, gifts that go on after we're not here. And I think that the gift of a literacy narrative that all teachers can use and all students can use, we can use as a historical artifact, or that we can use as a contemporaneous artifact, is a real gift to us and to the profession of teaching and the profession of working with literacy. And so I would encourage everybody to give that gift, and then with great conscience and with all the generosity that you gave the gift, to use the gifts that others have given in the DALN.